For decades, if you flew, you were probably flying American. The friendly skies were ruled by giants like Boeing, McDonnell Douglas, and Lockheed. They built the jets that shrunk the globe. But across the Atlantic, a scrappy, almost cobbled-together European project, born from a tangle of different companies and governments, decided to challenge that empire. It was called Airbus. And honestly, it was an idea that almost never left the drawing board. In an aviation world dominated by the US, a small group of European engineers and dreamers made a bet that almost everyone expected them to lose. This is the story of how that bet, the Airbus A320. Did you and Chi just survive it? Kicked off a rivalry that would redefine the entire industry and change the way we fly forever. It's a tale of high-stakes gambles, groundbreaking tech, and pure ambition. Picture it! 1970. The skies are full of American-made jets with 3 or even 4 engines. The thinking was, more engines equals more safety. So, the idea of a wide-body airliner or a big plane with 2 aisles powered by just 2 engines? That wasn't just radical. To the airlines, it was terrifying. But that was Airbus's opening move. The A300, the world's first ever twin-engine dual-aisle. The brainchild of a consortium of aerospace companies from France, Germany, Spain, and the Netherlands. The A300 represented a whole new way of thinking. It was lighter, faster, and cheaper to operate than anything else in the sky. But could it actually fly? Suddenly, European-built jets powered by just 2 engines seemed pretty appealing. And that's when Airbus made a surprising ally in an unlikely corner, the U.S. airline industry. After some prodding from Washington, D.C., some American carriers cautiously placed small orders. In 1978, one of the biggest U.S. airlines, Eastern Airlines, needed a more fuel-efficient jet. In a stroke of genius, Airbus offered him a deal he couldn't refuse. Take 4 A300s, fly them for 6 months, and don't pay a dime. Borman took the deal. The results were staggering. The A300 used a jaw-dropping 30% less fuel than his other jets. In 1978, Eastern placed a firm order for 23 planes. That single deal proved the twin-engine concept wasn't just viable, it was the future. Airbus was officially on the map. With the A300 making waves, Airbus set its sights on the most popular category in aviation, single-aisle jets, a market completely owned by the Boeing 737. To take on the champ, Airbus couldn't just build a copycat. It had to spark a revolution. And that revolution came in the form of the A320. Launched in 1988, the A320 looked pretty normal from the outside. But inside the cockpit, it was pure science fiction. Airbus ripped out the old system of heavy cables and hydraulics and replaced it with fly-by-wire. The first time in a commercial jet, the pilot's controls weren't physically yanking on the wings and tail. Instead, a flick of the wrist on a new side stick sent an electronic signal to flight control computers. Those computers would then interpret the command, make sure it was safe, and tell the plane what to do. This digital leap was a game changer. It made the plane lighter and more fuel efficient. It also introduced flight envelope protection, a digital safety net that physically stopped pilots from making a maneuver that was too extreme or dangerous. Plus, it meant all Airbus fly-by-wire jets had a similar cockpit, slashing training costs for airlines. The A320 family was a runaway hit. In October 2019, it officially overtook the 737 as the best-selling airliner in history, and as of 2025, it continues to extend that lead. The digital age of flying had arrived. But the road to undisputed leadership wasn't smooth. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, Europe was changing. Countries were breaking free from Cold War restrictions, and open markets meant competition was heating up. With the Soviet Union out of the picture, Boeing had more room to flex its muscles and surprise, it started with another twin-engine wide-body jet, the A330 and the A340. They shared the same fuselage, the same wings, and the same fly-by-wire cockpit. The only real difference? The A330 had 2 engines for busy medium to long routes, taken on the Boeing 767. The A340 had 4 engines, designed to fly the longest routes on the planet without any restrictions. For a while, it worked. The A340 found its niche. But technology waits for no one. As twin-engine jets got more and more reliable, the ETOP's rules were relaxed. Suddenly, the powerful and incredibly efficient Boeing 777 twinjet hit the market. And the A340, with its four thirsty engines, just couldn't compete. While the A340 program faded, its twin sister, the A330, became a massive success. It was celebrated for its versatility and efficiency, and still flies today in its modernized Neo version. It was a perfect lesson in both clever design and the unstoppable march of progress. And yet, despite their triumph, a new problem was brewing. Airports were getting more crowded, flights were getting fuller, and passengers were getting more impatient. People wanted bigger planes that could carry more passengers without the delays associated with dozens of smaller planes touching down and taking off. Airbus responded with an answer that stunned the world. In 2000, the super jumbo Airbus A380 took to the skies. Dubbed the Flying A380, it was an unprecedented project. Not only was it 4 stories tall, but it was also twice as wide as a Boeing 747. The goal was simple: get more people onto fewer flights. While the A380 is often cited as a failure, its end wasn't as dramatic as many believe. Yes, Airbus wound up scaling back production targets, but the remaining 120 or so A380s are still in operation and will remain so for years to come. All that innovation takes a lot of work. How does Airbus keep track of everything? With project management software, of course. And now let's get back to our story. The real reason the A380 ultimately failed wasn't technical. It was a business decision. As the world reeled from the 2008 financial crisis, demand for luxury air travel plummeted. Airlines simply didn't need a super jumbo jet that cost a staggering $440 million apiece. The focus shifted to smaller, more fuel-efficient planes. It was a huge blow. But Airbus didn't stay down for long. It took the lessons it learned from the A380 and applied them to its next masterpiece. Today, Airbus is fighting hard against climate change. Aviation accounts for 2.5% of all carbon dioxide emissions, and the industry is growing fast. Planes produce nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, and soot, which affect air quality and contribute to climate change. Airbus isn't standing idly by. Its response was a massive. Meet the A350XWB 4 extra wide body. The A350 was conceived as a competitor to Boeing's highly successful 787. But Airbus had something more ambitious in mind. With the A350, they wanted to reinvent the meaning of efficiency. After all, it was developed with the help of 150 suppliers from 30 countries, each bringing their best ideas to the table. The result? A stunningly beautiful plane made from cutting-edge materials. But the real magic happened inside the wings. The A350 was the first Airbus where both the fuselage and wings were made primarily from carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is an incredibly lightweight and durable material. It's roughly 1/4 the weight of aluminum, which is typically used to build airplane components. The A350's composite wings meant that the plane required less fuel to stay aloft. Plus, they were so sturdy that Airbus could afford to make them longer, giving the plane more lift capacity. The A350 is the pinnacle of Airbus's modern philosophy. It's efficient, it's quiet, and it can fly incredibly long distances. It competes head-to-head with both the Boeing 787 and the larger 777. Proving Airbus can not only react to the market, but create a plane that defines modern air travel. But the story doesn't end there. The company is investing heavily in the future. From planes running on sustainable aviation fuels to its Zero project, which aims to develop a hydrogen-powered commercial aircraft. While Airbus has indicated the ambitious 2035 target for hydrogen flight may shift, its commitment to